Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. And I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons' incredibly profound relationship with Hollywood, specifically from the perspective of Jami Gertz. So, Jami Gertz is a truly unique Hollywood actress, and I posit that her footprint on Hollywood, that her impact on Hollywood was more powerful and more broad than most other American actresses because of her early connection with Dungeons and Dragons. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about who Jami Gertz is. So Jami Gertz is, I believe, one of the most important American female actresses of the 20th century, right? So she came out in Square Pegs. I think that was kind of her debut where she really kind of, hit. And then you would probably know her from one of these. You're most likely to know her from one of these three films. Solarbabies. And actually, maybe I'm putting that on the list because that movie is one of my favorite films. It's about roller skating and aliens. Not a joke. It's a really good film. I really like it. It's a really unique film, and Jami Gertz is in it. But then she was in The Lost Boys, and The Lost Boys is massively famous and popular. I think maybe, and one thing I think is really interesting is I do think Lost Boys is starting to lose its luster and is it's starting to lose its luster, starting to lose its shine, and has a distinct possibility of dying as an intellectual property. What I think is really interesting is the intellectual properties that live today, that matter today, are the intellectual properties that grow and continue, right? If your intellectual property is not growing and continuing, it's dead. And so I love The Lost Boys. I think, it's Kiefer Sutherland, Jami Gertz is in there, Corey Feldman, Corey Haim. Corey Haim died. Terribly sad story. But she was in The Lost Boys, and she was in the movie Twister, which is getting a sequel called Twisters. But the thing that's interesting is in the link below you will find a link for Jami Gertz in a 1983 Dungeons and Dragons cartoon, right? And so here she, very early in her career, in order to play a Dungeons and Dragons player, she had to study and connect and understand what Gary Gygax's vision for Dungeons and Dragons was, right? And so Gary Gygax, unlike any other game in the world, really connected Dungeons and Dragons powerfully to identity, right? And so, and most powerfully, I think, through alignment, right? But also through species, and also through class, and also through background. All of these things were aspects of identity. So Jami Gertz is connecting with Dungeons and Dragons in this unique way, really, really early on, and has this different perspective on acting, this different perspective on identity. And if you watch her in the commercial, she is channeling a completely engaged Dungeons and Dragons player, and she is also helping to very powerfully helping to form the image of a mixed gender table, which is to this day a powerful goal of Dungeons and Dragons. The very best, the podium level dungeon masters really are seeking mixed gender tables, and she is helping to portray a mixed gender table and say, this was what it looks like for a female to play Dungeons and Dragons with males, right? And actually, she's not the only female at the table. It's an incredible commercial. And what I think is really incredible about this is I think Jami Gertz has a broader impact on Hollywood because she understood identity in a different way than other actors and actresses. Truly a delight to find Jami Gertz connected to Dungeons and Dragons. Every single word of that is my humble opinion. What's important is when I get to hear your humble opinion when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.